Hello, we're live. Welcome. Welcome to my version of Truth in 10, the climate crisis and its solutions, which is the presentation is very, very famous that Al Gore has been sharing with the world for the last 15 years or something. So I'm Virginia Cinquemani. I am the director and founder of Green Gorilla Consultants Ltd, which is a training and coaching company focused on supporting and empowering sustainability professionals to make a difference. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I recently attended the Climate Reality Corps leadership training, again run by the organization that Al Gore founded. And it's been, I think, really an eye-opener, even for me that have been in sustainability for the last 16, 17 years. The reason why I want to share this particular presentation is that in a very short space of time, so it's not 10 minutes actually, it's probably going to take about 20 to present, if not half an hour, but it really gives all the key points of the climate crisis, but also some of the solutions that are already existing. So there is hope in there. Now, as we know, today is the last day of COP26. We'll see what the outcome is. So I wanted to perform this act of leadership, as it's called by the Climate Reality Hub, and just share this with you guys. At the end of this, at 1:30 GMT, I'm going to also host a craft your climate story workshop. That's going to be in Zoom, and the link is in the latest post I got on LinkedIn if you are watching this live. So there's still time to sign up. Again, that's free as well, because that's part of my acts of leadership. So welcome. If you have any comments, please let me know. Write them in the chat box underneath if you are on LinkedIn or YouTube, because this is going live on YouTube as well. And I'm going to start in a minute. Though I just wanted to say, as soon as I finish the presentation, again, the slides are what Al Gore's team has put together. We're going to have a little debate, if you want, online here, just to share what can individuals do to make a difference, irrespective of what happens in this COP26, which ends today. So let's start, and welcome everybody. If you want to write a little comment and say hello, that would be great. I see the comments, but just with a bit of delay, so be patient with me if I don't answer immediately, and I will look at all the comments at the end of the presentation. So let me share this. So welcome, as I said, to this climate crisis and its solution Truth in 10 presentation. So this is one of the first images that NASA took in one of the Apollo missions, and that shows the finite planet that we live on. It's just this little blue marble in the middle of the universe. This is what we're dealing with. This is all we have. And this is what we need to protect. And it's great this presentation starts with that, because it really gives perspective. And in fact, it's one of the first images that provided a different perspective to the human beings of our own planet. But there are three main questions that we need to address. Must we change? Can we change? And will we change to address the climate crisis that we're in? So first question, must we change? Well, let's have a look. So this is the normal conditions where you have solar radiation in the form of light waves that passes through the atmosphere. So the sun just warms the earth in the form of light waves. Most of the radiation is absorbed by the earth and warms it. That's all nice. Some of the energy is radiated back into space, again, as this time as infrared waves. And some of this outgoing infrared radiation is trapped by the Earth's atmosphere, so the gas, the greenhouse gases that are surrounding the atmosphere. And that's one of the key conditions for life on Earth to be maintained, because we are right at the right distance between the sun and you know, in the from the sun, sorry, and so the life on Earth is pretty much a miracle in terms of distance. If we were a bit too close, it'd be too hot. If we were a bit too far, it would be too cold. But what happened with time, especially after the Industrial Revolution, is that we have increased the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. It's not just CO2, as we know, it's also methane, which has been talked about a lot during COP26 and all the greenhouse gases, but CO2 is the one that we're dealing with on a most regular basis. And so it's almost like we created a little blanket around the Earth, and that's where the radiation gets trapped. And, you know, we keep the Earth a bit too warm for the perfect balance that it needs for life to thrive. So what we're doing effectively is chucking 162 million tons of man-made global warming potential, global warming pollution into this thin layer of the atmosphere every 24 hours if it were, I can't talk today, an open sewer. In fact, it's been talked about being a toilet, and effectively this is what we're doing every single day. But then if you look at the atmosphere, it's actually a very, very thin layer. So if you drove, hypothetically, a car at maximum speed in vertical from the Earth's surface through the atmosphere, you will reach the end of it in 5 minutes. Is that thin? So we don't have a lot of it, and we are, as we said, just treating it as an open sewer. Also to see, you know, in perspective, the energy trapped by man-made global warming pollution is now equivalent to exploding 600,000 atomic bombs per day, every day of the year. This is crazy. It's an enormous amount of energy. But where does it come from? So the biggest sources of greenhouse gases that we have come from transport, come from industrial agriculture, industrial processes, of course, the burning of fossil fuels, different kinds, and this is what we got now. But by large, by far, the largest source of global warming pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. You will see that from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution down to today, the burning of fossil fuels have gone exponentially high, of course. And as a consequence, the anomaly and the increasing temperature of the global surface has increased. Now we are about 1.2 degrees more than what it was pre-Industrial Revolution. And look at that, 19 out of the 20 hottest years on record have occurred since the year 2002, and the hottest of all have been the last 7 years. So it's a trend, it's going up, not showing any signs of going down. So this is what happened on June the 6th. This is the air temperature reaching 50 degrees in several countries, including Iran, Kuwait, Oman, and the UAE. That is unlivable conditions. That means that if we don't stop this, within 70 years, all of these areas of the central part of the world are going to be absolutely unlivable. And even in that area, so where we usually have really cool temperatures, so continental temperatures, in Canada, this summer, we had closer to 50 degrees as well, which is absolutely unheard of. This is my country and my region, Sicily, and on August the 13th, there was a record 48.8 degrees centigrade, which meant that even the snails died in their shells. That gives you a little bit of perspective, really. This is Europe, by the way. Or in Siberia. Siberia is obviously usually you know, a cold country, a cold region, and in June, just in 2020, it reached 38 degrees. So what happens then? with this heat rising, you got 93% of the extra heat that is trapped into the ocean. The ocean is also our biggest absorber of CO2. And when the temperature of the ocean raises, there are certain consequences that I'm going to explain in a second. But look how it has increased in the last 20 years. The scary bit is also that it's not just on the surface, but is even at the level of 2,000 meters and more of depth in the ocean that you get raised temperatures. And of course, half of this increase has occurred in less than 20 years. So everything is really accelerating, and has accelerated in the last 20 years. This causes problems like increased hurricanes and stronger hurricanes. For example, Hurricane Ida, the cross water that were up to 4 degrees higher than normal, and the heat extended deeper than in other areas of the Gulf. Look at this. Look at what happened then. These are the consequences. This is in Louisiana, just in August. In Haiti, 10 inches of rain just fell down after, unfortunately, the country was also hit by an enormous earthquake. So it's obviously one thing after the other one. In the Philippines, you can see how 15,000 people were evacuated as a typhoon, combined with the monsoon rainfall, caused severe flooding. That's again June just gone. And tropical cyclone Takuate, there was the strongest storm ever to hit India west coast. And you know, this is all around the world, as you can see. Guatemala, for example, Hurricane Eta. And unfortunately, this is felt by the poorest people around the globe, because there are people with least means to become more resilient towards these events. This is what Pope Francis highlighted in 2015, and it's actually quite true. The reason why we have stronger hurricanes and weather events is that as the temperatures increase, the oceans evaporate more moisture into the sky. And that causes all this moisture to be trapped in the skies and coming down with anomalies in terms of precipitation, so rain and hurricanes and other weather-related facts. Look at this. This is like what is called a water bomb. So all this moisture trapped in the sky that has to come down again. And here it is in Texas in June the 1st, which is quite scary. In Tennessee, at least 22 people died because of flooding, because they received 17 inches of rain in less than 24 hours. That's an enormous amount of rain all in one go. This is China. 302 people died because of the worst rain in 1,000 years. In Japan, this is again August, 1.4 million people were urged to seek shelter. So they had to leave their homes because of severe flooding and landslides. Look at this. This is probably one of the scariest pictures. This is in Germany. As you know, in July 2021, Germany and Belgium also suffered severe flooding. This is before the flooding, and this is after. I mean, I haven't got words for this. In Brazil, in the Amazonas state, 450,000 people were affected by flooding and reached the highest level of flood alert. Look at this. South Sudan, 600,000 people were displaced by flooding in 2020. But the thing is, the same heat that makes water evaporate from the ocean causes the land to lose moisture, and that means a drought. So, you know, that's the other facet of it, the other face of it. Droughts, as you can see, 93% of the US West is experiencing moderate to exceptional drought. And that's just in September, a couple of months ago. 6 states are now 100% in drought. There is no water left. How scary is that? Nearly half of California is in exceptional drought conditions. This is Brazil, worst drought in nearly a century. This is China. Again, 2.4 million people are affected by drought in early 2021. And that means, of course, that lots of people also face food insecurity because drought affects crops, which are not delivering as much as they should. So, for example, more than 100 million people in Africa now are facing food insecurity. What does it also mean? That when you have hot years, you also have typically more fires. And here is a spread of fires in the last 30 years. In California, as we know, most of the time, Greenville has been destroyed by the second largest fire in California's history. This is Greece. In August this year, thousands were forced to evacuate as the wildfire raged across the country. Argentina, droughts and high temperature fuel fires destroying a lot of the country. So as you can see, storms, floods, extreme temperatures, drought, fires, as you can see, they're all increasing. The number of events are more and more and is a bit exponential. So they're becoming, it's not a linear change. But the warming of the earth means also the places that had permafrost, like Greenland, now look more like this. And that is, that's a real issue, because as glaciers go down, you have other consequences. So, for example, in Greenland's ice is melting 4 times faster than was predicted. You can see, for example, how glacier is lost in the Antarctic really rapidly as well. And that means that lots of cities are actually at risk from sea level rise, because the more ice melts, the more water there is in the oceans, and the more the sea levels rise. And so cities like Mumbai or even Miami are threatened by this. This is a picture for 2016. You can see an octopus in a parking lot in Florida because of flooding coming from the sea level rises. Cancun in Mexico will be severely impacted by the sea level rise, so all the tourism infrastructure will be affected as well, and will be affected if nothing changes. That means that by 2100, I would say, $14.2 trillion dollars worth of property worldwide could be threatened by cost of flooding. So not just because we love the earth and we want to keep it, or we love animals. And that's the thing that some people that deny the climate crisis have to really understand is actually a big impact on the economy worldwide. So pardon me, a country like Kiribati has been the first nation to purchase land in another country to house its climate refugees. So they are predicting how they're gonna need to replace a place where to live for their population. So there will be more food and water shortages, pandemic disease, and refugees and other resources. So this is all quite dramatic, as you can see. So as I was saying right at the beginning, the Earth uninhabitable zones are at the moment around the most desertic areas in Africa. However, by 2070, as you can see, a lot more of the Earth will be uninhabitable. Globally, 10.3 million people were displaced by extreme weather from September 2020 to February 2021, that's not even a year, that's less than 6 months, and that's 4 times more than by conflict. So extreme weather displaces people more, pushes people to move more than war, which is quite scary. So we could see 1 billion climate migrants. Beside that, beside all of this, there is also health. Climate change is the biggest global health threat in the 21st century, and that's by the Lancet Countdown on Health and Climate Change report in 2018. Why is that? Because as the climate changes and humans expand further into the wild areas on the earth, 5 new infectious diseases are emerging on average every year. That's China, you know, with new infrastructure built where before there was nothing. As we know, well, it's thought that coronavirus came from the bats. It's not the only disease that comes from animals. In fact, 75% of all new emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic, so they are transmitted from animals to humans. Why is that? Because animals are displaced also from their natural habitats. They are threatened by the scarcity of food and water, and they are becoming closer to humans. Therefore, here we are, we got more diseases than we used to have. So, for example, in Indonesia, Indonesian villages near forests experience a 10% increase in malaria for every 1% decline in forest cover. That is quite significant. As you can see from this slide, tropical diseases on the move. Look at this, more and more diseases going from one place and spreading everywhere, which is pretty scary. And I apologize, it's all a bit daunting and it's all a bit doom and gloom right now, but I promise at the end there will be some good news. So the global economic impact of air pollution. So we're talking about health. Air pollution is another big factor. Air pollution from fossil fuels cost $2.9 trillion a year. That is enormous. In fact, deaths attributable to ambient air pollution, as you can see, are quite a lot, especially in areas that are heavily polluted like China and India. And this is one of those stats that really caught my attention. Worldwide, air pollution kills 9 million people every year. That's a lot more than COVID, if you think about it. Yet, we're not doing much about it. So it's a very comparable stats, aren't they? And the climate crisis is also an extinction and biodiversity crisis, which is not secondary to the issues that we just looked at. We need biodiversity in order to survive as a human species. In fact, we risk now to lose up to 50% of all land-based species in this century only. That, again, scary, scary stuff. Bit of sound there. This is the cost of carbon. This is the cost of carbon due to all of this stuff that we just talked about and more. And it's been defined as the #1 threat to the global economy. So, must we change? Of course we must change. Obviously we must change, but can we change? So this is where things look up a little bit. We have the solutions at hand. So, for example, look at the projection in 2000 in terms of green energy progress. So we thought we were going to have worldwide wind capacity that would reach 30 gigawatts by 2010. The reality has been that by 2010, that goal was exceeded by a factor of 24 times. That's enormous. So this is what happened. Wind capacities just shoot up. Amazing. So, for example, in England, where I'm based, in England last year, the United Kingdom generated more than 26 times as much electricity from renewables than from coal, which is fantastic news. And we use zero coal-fired electricity on 1/3 of the days in 2020. Wind could supply globally electricity 4 times over. So obviously wind is not going to stop, and it can supply all the electricity we need. What about solar? Solar in 2002 was thought that was going to grow 1 gigawatt per year by 2010, but the reality is even better than wind, because the goal was exceeded by 17 times, but in 2020 it was exceeded by 132 times. That's incredible. Look at this. Look at the rise of global photovoltaic installation. And the good news is also that the cost of it has gone down dramatically. I remember I've done a master's degree in 2006 where we said that the return on investment of solar panels was going to be 100 years. Now is only a handful of years. Things have improved so much in the last 20 years. China, although it's the biggest polluter on earth, is actually installing more solar than any other country. So that's good news there. Cape Town in South Africa, one of the largest cities, freed from a mandate to purchase dirty coal-fired electricity from a single state-owned supplier, and announced a plan to switch to solar and methane from landfills. Look at the Chilean solar market. That's the end of 2020, and look what's happening right now in terms of installing capacity of solar in Chile. It hasn't stopped yet. It's really quite staggering. So this is why this animation, because it's absolutely off the chart. And solar energy reaches the earth every hour with enough, so there is enough solar energy reaching the earth every hour to fill all of the world's energy needs for a full year. So again, we're not going to run out of it for the foreseeable future. The global cumulative storage capacity, so the batteries, is also increasing quite well. This is what's happening. Look at that. And electric vehicles will reach price parity quite soon. So by 2022 in the US, Australia, and Europe for large cars, 2023 in the US and Australia for all segments of the car market, 2024 in Europe for SUVs and mid-size cars. So it's going to be as, you know, the price is going to be the same as buying petrol or diesel cars. And good news is that General Motors has announced it will phase out gasoline and diesel-powered passenger vehicles by 2035. Global electric cars on the road, as you can see, rising as well, quite dramatically. So can we change? Absolutely, we can change. These are just two things: wind, solar, and of course there is the electric vehicle market. But you can see we have some of the technology to address it. And the third and final question is, will we change? Well, in 2015, the Paris Agreement was quite an historical agreement because every nation in the world agreed to work together to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century. Pretty much, we will see what happens at the end of COP26. As you know, the US rejoined with a new administration. And so 54% of global emissions are from countries that have set a net zero target. So it is within the radar. Whether, again, they're going to do it at the speed that we need, this is still to see. But, you know, this is the science. Over 300 global companies have made a commitment to go 100% renewable. And that is, and again, a number that is rising, I should say. These are the companies that signed already an agreement. And we have seen in the last 3 years, younger climate activists all around the world protesting, being on the street every Friday and more. This is Ecuador, and there is India. And that's what gives us hope, is the youngest generations are actually very invested into change. So, we need to join those that are using their voices, their votes, and their choices to fight for their future, their community, and their world. And how do we do that? By using our voice, our vote, and our choices, and speak truth to power, like your world depends on it. Because guess what? It does depend on it. So thank you very much. This was Truth in 10. I'm going to move my camera so that you can see me better. There you go. So as you can see, lasted for about 30 minutes. Thank you for those that are still listening. And I'm going to stay for a few minutes more to discuss what individual actions we can take to really make a difference, as you've seen. And also, please share with me what was the thing that really made a difference for you. If you enjoyed this presentation, if you thought something really hit home, tell me what it was, whether it was, you know, one particular slide, one image, one stat or something I shared. For example, the air pollution stat for me was quite staggering, you know, how 9 million people die a year for air pollution. The landslides in Germany also was quite shocking for me, but there are other things as well, of course, and everyone has a different story and they might be caught by a different thing. But the key is here, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? The last slide said we need to use our voice, we need to use our vote, and we need to use our choices. So what are you doing? And, you know, we can all pledge for different things. We can all talk about what, you know, depending very much on our strengths, depending very much on what resonates with us. And it depends very much on what are our skills, so we can use them towards a better world. But also, as just private citizens, every day, we can vote for people to support, you know, climate justice. We can put our money in banks that don't invest in fossil fuels. And there are some websites like switch-it.money, so switch-it.money, where you can check in the UK whether your bank is investing in fossil fuel or not. You can buy food that has, you know, short mileages and preferably plant-based. All of this can contribute, but what can you do? So Alexandra says, impressed by the progress we made exceeding the target for green energy. Absolutely. I mean, one thing is to open your eyes to what's happening in terms of the crisis. And I think this presentation is quite powerful because it puts together all the stuff that we know, you know, scattered thoughts, all in, you know, in a logical sequence, which is amazing. But one other thing is feeling that we can actually make a difference, and we can make a difference, and we can change, and we have the beginning of actual solutions. So I know that, for example, Bill Gates is saying, okay, we need to invest in new technologies to get us out of the climate crisis. However, a lot of this technology is already here with us. Did you know, for example, that the electric car was invented in the 1800s? Well, do a little, you know, research on the internet, you will see that this is a technology that has not been invented in the last 20 years. However, we know how it went. You know, fossil fuel companies had a lot of interest in stopping certain inventions to see the light of the day. Therefore, here we are, but we need to look forward. What can we do? So we can't switch off fossil fuels from one day to the next. That would be silly, and it will cause absolute chaos. But how can we wean ourselves from fossil fuels? As I said, at an individual level, there is definitely looking at where we put our money, looking at how we spend it, looking at how we advocate for justice, how we lobby our MPs, for example, our politicians, to do the right thing. Because law is another powerful instrument to regulate this. So it has to come from above, obviously from governments, but we need to push as the consumers and as citizens, we need to push for change. Andy says, do you think that the figures are too high for some to comprehend? You speak about billions where we have a better understanding in hundreds. Should the detail be more on the individual's pocket rather than planet's wallets? Absolutely. You know, at one point, billion, trillion doesn't make a difference in my brain. It's an enormous amount. And some of the storytelling that is needed is really to translate what people understand better. So Andy, if you think that actually these numbers can be translated into individual numbers, I think you're right. I think that definitely can be done. And it would be really powerful to think about how much does it cost me as an individual every year, the climate crisis. That's a great point. Elena says, what I don't understand is why the fossil fuel companies have dictated what kind of cars are we going to be using. Well, why? Because they want to sell more of the dirty stuff. That's as simple as that, Helena. It's absolutely as simple as that. They also have been lobbying governments around the world. Some of the Middle Eastern countries have been, the governments have been lobbying as well, the rest of the countries, because their economies are focused a lot on fossil fuels. There's a lot of money in there. And yeah, it's all money. We know that. It's been all led by money. It's as simple as that. Changing the production of electricity is only the easy part. What Bill Gates talks about, for example, is changing industrial processes, which not only use fossil fuels, but also produce greenhouse gases in their process. So for example, cement production. Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is the energy, and other things are other technologies. And I wasn't criticizing Bill Gates. I think he's been doing great things. However, he does rely a lot in his talk on technology, but there are other things we already have. For example, I suggested to my students that they watch 2040, a movie that is actually not being done by a climate scientist, but by just a father who interviewed a lot of climate scientists and a lot of experts to see what the solutions are nowadays. And, there were things like kelp, so algae farming and tree planting and microgrids of energy, etc., etc. So lots of solutions are already here. And of course, the technology will go ahead and think about cement production, how can be made clean, or even switch from cement to something else altogether. I mean, maybe new materials will come in play. But the thing is, we don't have time, we can't rely on technologies that don't exist yet. We need to start with what we got, I think. What has been the biggest change that I've done personally? Well, I've changed my whole life, I think, since becoming more and more aware. I've been in sustainability for 16 years. My personal change has been becoming vegan, and trying to avoid traveling by plane as much as possible. Of course, as you know, probably I'm Italian, so I have to go to Italy now and then to see my family. But I try, although it's not a perfect solution, I try and offset those emissions with the reputable offsetting schemes until there is a better solution to travel, of course. But I think the biggest has been moving my money from banks that were invested in fossil fuels into banks that are not, including my pension as well, which is, couldn't be a considerable amount of money, and becoming vegan, and then day to day, and also this sort of thing. I think one of my powers is to teach people, and that's something that I enjoy. And I think the more we communicate sustainability, the more we tell other people, the more we inspire other people, the better a chance we have to have masses to do a little bit each in order to change. And sustainability will need to become a business as usual proposition. So that's what I'm trying to do. Hardip, hello Hardip, lovely to see you here. Some hard-hitting facts, yes, absolutely. The fact that the temperature in the last 20 years have been increasing is testimony that is real. The increases in the spread of tropical diseases is scary, and we're seeing that happening already. Absolutely. All of this is scary if you think about it. It's what we experience, the sort of hit home. Sometimes when we hear about monsoon, the other side of the world, if we're not involved, you know, we might feel sorry, but it doesn't quite get us at an emotional level. And things can only change when data become emotions. I'm going to do a craft your climate story workshop in 20 minutes on Zoom. As I said before, you can sign up still via Eventbrite using the link in my latest post this morning on LinkedIn, because that's the key. You need to bring it home to people. You need to make the emotion come through if you want to tell that story. How can we change industry and people to stop doing things like phone upgrades each year and force obsolescence via tech updates? We can't compete with huge marketing budgets. You're right, Andy. I mean, it is a conundrum, isn't it? What can we do as individuals? But the thing is, the more we push for change, the more things change. To me, there is no one solution, and it's a system issue. It's everyone has to contribute. Is governments, is so with the law imposing some of these changes, is the industry, they need to do their big part, and is individuals. So I'll give you an example, Andy, for example, you know, just to explain what I think about this. Veganism has become a bit of a trend thing. Lots more people are, if not completely vegan, using plant ingredients. They are eating more plants. If you live in the UK, you will see how that has changed the face of supermarkets. Now the vegan section is huge. It used to be nothing, zero. There was nothing. There was vegan beside maybe a little bit of tofu in some of the specialized retailers. So demand has driven companies to change. So with mobile phones, if we stop upgrading every time we get offered an upgrade, then companies will need to readjust and perhaps come up with phones like Fair phones that can be replaced in parts. I haven't replaced my phone until it got completely broken in pieces, and it was way beyond the upgrade that I was offered, for example. And when I replaced it, I bought a second-hand phone. I didn't go and buy a new phone. And I don't mind, it's perfectly fine and it works. And if I do the same, and if I do this and other people do the same, we drive the market with our money. I hope that answers the question. Alexandra, I'm looking for the tool you mentioned, but can't find it. What tool? I can't remember now what tool. I think were you referring to the bank? Sorry, the bank website to switch. Just put a note in there, because that was switch-it.money if you are in the UK to check whether your bank is investing in fossil fuels or not. Hardip, share slides so we can convey some of these brilliant facts to others. I need to double check Hardip, because I did the training with the Climate Reality Hub, and that's how I got access to the slide. But you can do the same. You can sign up and get trained, and you can do the same. And I think it's about 40,000 people, if I'm not wrong, right now around the world that do this. So absolutely encourage you. It's an eye-opening training course that you can do. Is free, so you could do it. Yeah, okay, so like Alexandra again is switch-it.money to check whether your bank is dirty or not. Okay, guys, I need to catch my breath before the other workshop in 15 minutes, if that's okay. That's on Zoom. So if you want, you can sign up. Again, it's free. We're going to go through some basic storytelling facts, so why storytelling is important, and then I will guide you through the process of writing your and crafting your climate story to change and influence others. Actually, we don't change others, we change ourselves. We can only influence others. So there you go. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any other comments, please pop them in there, because I will read it later and try and answer as much as I can. So thank you so much for being here today, and I will see you hopefully at the workshop in 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'll see you soon. Bye.